At this point, I'm going to pause a little bit to talk about some of this language I've been using here. You'll notice that I've been saying the word psychedelic an awful lot. What even is that, and why do I choose that term? There are a lot of options out there for how we talk about this thing. I prefer the word psychedelic. In my opinion, these agents are non-competitive, or I'm sorry, non-specific amplifiers of conscious content. And what I mean by that is that your clients, Bill, as an example, Bill has gone through most of his life not feeling love. It's in there, it's under the surface somewhere. It's in, maybe you could, the Freudian unconscious, or it's just somewhere outside of his reach from his normal day-to-day experience. But it's in there. I believe strongly that all of us are born capable of giving and receiving love, but life finds a way to make that inaccessible. And this is what happened with Bill. And so the experiences with psilocybin, they did not invent love. They didn't push love into him from the outside. They helped him to manifest this unconscious love that was already in him, but inaccessible. Other times, maybe a client has experienced trauma and they don't want to acknowledge that. They haven't dealt with the trauma, and they take a psychedelic, and that is the unconscious thing which comes up into consciousness, and suddenly they are reliving their trauma in an incredibly altered state. And that is not a good place to be. So psychedelics are non-specific amplifiers. They can amplify feelings of fear and anger and disgust, and they can amplify feelings of joy and connection and peace. They aren't picky. So a psychedelic merely manifests the mind. This can be wonderful in conjunction with therapy, but you could also imagine how it could make things worse, how it could further destabilize someone. Another popular word that people throw out is entheogen. And this is usually in reference to ceremonial, religious, or spiritual use of these substances, often related to naturally occurring plant-based psychedelics. It's not used, that word isn't used as much to describe laboratory created synthetic molecules like ketamine, but sometimes people can have very profound spiritual experiences of God and the divine on ketamine. So this use of entheogen, it's kind of, it's not talking about the molecule, it's talking about the experience that you would like to have with the molecule. Empathogen, this is a really interesting one. This word, to generate empathy, is used specifically for MDMA and related compounds. And there is no better word to describe MDMA. Psychedelics, pretty good, but it's a little generic. Empathogen is precisely what MDMA does. And we see this time and time again, both in healthy research subjects, as well as with clinical populations with PTSD and social anxiety, that it increases both cognitive and affective aspects of empathy. And you could imagine how useful this might be in therapy. Before it was outlawed, it was used primarily in couples or marriage therapy to increase empathy between the partners. Finally, we have a new word. This was just coined a few years ago, newfangled word, psychoplastogen. This means to rapidly promote neuroplasticity. This is primarily used to describe ketamine. That's where the word first was kind of introduced, but it's been used to describe these other things as well, psilocybin and LSD and whatnot. As I mentioned, these chemical agents induce functional and structural neuroplasticity. They make you less stuck. They make you it makes it a little bit easier for you to learn new things, to pick up new habits, to think differently about your life or yourself or your past. And what else are we doing in therapy with our clients except trying to help them to think differently or to feel differently or to behave differently than they usually do? And a psychoplastogen could be wonderful in conjunction with assistance from therapy or coaching or, a meditation teacher or whoever. If your client is trying to learn a new skill or think differently or approach the world differently, and they take a psychoplastogen, it enhances the ability for them to learn a new thing. Wonderful. So Bill, going back to Bill, he wanted a psychedelic. He also had some entheogenic effects. He didn't go to Jamaica specifically to meet God, but that sort of thing happened. You can have a very agnostic or atheistic spiritual experience. This isn't limited to like Sky Father, God sorts of things, but it can be. So he had experiences of cosmic divine love. He realized that the basic building block of all matter in the universe is love. It's not atoms or quarks. It is, in fact, love. And that is what all of us come from. And the one and only way that each of us can interact with other people in the world around us is through love. There's no other way to do it. And he likened this to a spiritual understanding of reality. It had nothing to do with, a God figure, but it was still religious or spiritual in nature. I guess it could be argued that he had a psychoplastogenic effect if he was at the retreat center and they're also, encouraging walks in the forest and healthy, clean eating and, daily yoga classes and stuff like that. These are the things that his mind is a little bit more able, his brain, I should say, is a little bit more able to take in, a little bit easier for him to learn new skills when he's in this psychoplastogenic state in the retreat center. But then he goes home, and now, if anything, what the culture is teaching him and reinforcing the habits of being surrounded by concrete and car exhaust and eating fast food. And those are the habits that he's more likely to pick up and reinforce, which did not go well for him. So, a lot of different names out there. I prefer the name psychedelic.